in the studio is Conservative MP for Bracknell, James Sunderland, who's been watching and listening to his colleagues. Let's just ask your general perspective on that. There was quite a lot of joking at the start.
Yeah, I've been an MP for 4 years, huge privilege. I've been very concerned since day one that politicians have to raise the bar of what they say and what they do. Hence, I was disappointed today by what I heard. I thought that Keir Starmer was very subjective. It was unnecessary to bring Christmas in the way that he did. I felt very strongly as though he didn't need to insult the Prime Minister, and it got off to the wrong foot.
You might say that this is the last Prime Minister's Questions of term. Isn't it right to sort of make those jokes about goodwill to all men, sort of have a bit of a lighter tone? And then, as Keir Starmer did, those first 3 questions were sort of perhaps more irrelevant or whatever. But then the final 2 or the final 3 were more substantive.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that PMQs is really important. It may be the only time that people in the UK and beyond see politics on TV. They may watch it, and therefore we've got to put on a show. But it's got to be objective. It's got to be about policy. It's got to be about what the country is doing, what the opposition are doing to hold the government to account. So I was disappointed by the nature of the questioning today.
I guess the Conservative Party have given Keir Starmer quite a lot to have a dig about. Particularly the headlines this week have been all about turmoil at the heart of government, turmoil within the party, the 5 families which were mentioned too, although that was by Rishi Sunak himself. Actually, the 5 families, different groups of Conservatives who were thinking about voting against the government when it came to the Rwanda bill. Of course, Rishi Sunak did win that in the end, and it has passed for now. So what I'm saying is that the Conservative Party have given him quite a lot to say, to joke about.
Well, I think the media loves a good story. We could see them yesterday in the gallery, salivating for a story. Great disappointment, of course, when the government won the bill, getting through yesterday on the vote. But the important point to note for me is that yesterday, not a single Conservative voted against the Rwanda bill. We know that every single Labour MP voted against the need to curb illegal migration. The party, actually, my party, are pretty united on the need to stop the boats. Of course, the issue is how we do that. And that's where we get into legal speak and Section 35 and the key issues that we've been discussing behind closed doors this week.
It's interesting, though, that there was almost this sort of hyped up speculation about whether the government would only win the second reading of this bill by a small margin, or whether it could even lead to a defeat. Perhaps Number 10 played up to all that speculation by getting Graham Stewart to fly back from the Middle East and have all sorts of select committees cut short their research trips as well. Was this a game of expectations management from Number 10?
Maybe. I mean, I think the important thing for me, of course, is the fact that we've got important votes. It's important for ministers and for members of the government and for other MPs to be there. I think that's the first thing. The second thing, of course, is the fact that the Prime Minister and Number 10 were engaging all the way through this week and the weekend. There's been quite an important whipping effort to talk to colleagues and listen to their concerns.
But it was never really in doubt. It won by 44 votes.
I think I get the impression that the Prime Minister was genuinely worried. I mean, let's remember, we were reporting Mark Francois outside Portcullis House in Westminster saying that this bill was incomplete and that it should be dropped and revised. So the Prime Minister must have been worried, genuinely.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm the Home Office PPS, so I see these things from the inside. I think the figures were always going to be good for us. But I think it's important to engage with colleagues. We've agreed to do that. There's work to do now behind closed doors in advance of the report stage and then third reading. So I'm pretty comfortable that the right wing of the party have got a lot to play for. It's important to them. You've got to listen to them. Their view is not without merit, but this is a government that listens, a government that does work together as a team, and we are a team, and it's very important that we get this bill through.
But how much can actually change at report stage, at the committee stage in the House of Commons? A lot of people may well have voted last night on the basis that this bill is tightened up in the new year, particularly Section 4 of the bill that refers to those individual circumstances where someone might be able to claim to a court that they're ill or something and therefore don't go to Rwanda. How can that be tightened up at report stage?
Well, I think it's about giving assurances. So, for example, within Section 35, the ability to appeal, it's quite important that people do have that right to appeal. Why? Because in law, rapists and murderers and others have the right to appeal. So we've got to make sure that we do comply with international law. Yes, it's right to disapply elements of the HRA. That's work that needs to be done in due course, in my view, anyway. But I also think it's right that we do not leave the European Court of Human Rights as a red line for the Prime Minister. So what the Prime Minister has to do is to pitch his market in the sand. He's got to get to a point where he's comfortable that the bill goes as far as it needs to stop the boats, but by the same token doesn't go too far that he loses the left of the party, One Nation Group in particular. It's also really important to get it through the Lords. It's important that that people come with us. And given that the Tory party is united on the need to stop the boats and to curb illegal immigration, it's really important, in my view, to get behind the Prime Minister.
The bill as it stands disapplies sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 and 9 of the Human Rights Act. That's a vast, vast gutting of that 1998 Tony Blair legislation. Do you really believe the House of Lords will accept that?
Well, wait and see. But the important thing is this. The Prime Minister is very comfortable making bold decisions. He's done that. This is very bold, ambitious legislation, which has gone through the House yesterday at second reading. This is a statement of intent from the Prime Minister to get this sorted. Labour Party want open borders. Fact. They haven't yet voted in support of any measure to curb illegal immigration. The Tories want to curb immigration.
Well, Keir Starmer has said that he is considering looking at some kind of scheme of offshore
Funny old thing.
processing.
Funny old
but
thing.
Very different from Rwanda. So if this bill is going to do the job and stop the boats, and it will deal with those legal challenges, why are so many of your colleagues so concerned that it won't do that?
Well, I think that the preference for some of my colleagues is that they stop the right of appeal completely. I don't think that's workable. I think there is a need for colleagues to see planes take off. I think they want to see the small boats stop overnight. If it was that easy, it would have been done before. This is very difficult legally. It's very difficult to make sure that we work within international law. We've got to make sure that we honour our international commitments. So the Prime Minister and his team of lawyers for months and months and months have been poring over this. I'm absolutely confident that No.10 has got the right solution. But it may well be that it doesn't deliver everything that colleagues want. But the important point for me is this. Politics is an imperfect sport. It's about compromise. You can't always have what you want. And that's part of being part of a team.
Well, James, we'll come back to you in a moment.